Leptonians, we did it. The ultimate ball lightning build. This is a unique take on a traditional build, but I know that you're going to love it. This build will allow you to complete any content you want out there. Tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons, Tier 100 Vaults, Uber Lilith, without the use of any Uber uniques. But if you were lucky enough to get your Ubers to drop this season, there's a section in this build for you. We're going to do a little bit of gameplay of a Tier 100 Nightmare Dungeon without the use of any Ubers, and then we'll jump into the build. Check it out. Here's the run. We'll talk about the build a little bit as we go through this. Starting with teleport. Anytime you can teleport into the room and pull that group of monsters together, just kind of like we did there, it helps a lot with staying alive, because everything gets done that you pulled in. Watch the cooldowns as the run progresses, because they come up very, very quickly, so that's why my barrier is always at full. As soon as the barrier wears off, that's when I start to panic. But teleporting is a great way to get that barrier back, because it teleports, stuns, and casts the barrier at the same time. So moving through these runs here, keeping your ball lightning up, having flame shield on reserve, and pay attention because I almost died there. I was just standing inside of something. It's so scary sometimes, these stuff that you can just stand in. Pro tip, if you haven't noticed, that monster that was lit up with like a neon highlight, that white glow is a damage reduction monster, and they keep all of the other monsters around them damage reduction, so kill them first if you're having issues with it. It's always fun when you can get a whole bunch of those ball lightnings up around you and just have them spin. A pretty cool animation. Alright, we're just gonna skip through. Just get to the very end of this. I'm gonna kill some of the stuff as we go, but see, there's that damage reduction monster in the back, went back. Killed him, and then the rest of the monsters just died. I learned that tip from AOZ. I was that many years old when I figured out that, thanks to some great advice from some clan members. Up until the point of AOZ, I didn't even know that that was a mechanic in the game, because it never really affected me, but now that you know it, I can't unsee it. So as you can see, every single time that I want to move on and progress and I see a monster, first thing I do is teleport. The additional teleports that I'm doing are from the evade, so if you watch the evade cooldown when I get a group of monsters around, the cooldown just drops almost instantly. So even though it's long, because we're running Juggernaut and we're running and teleport enchantment, it still cools down incredibly fast. Great form of CC, great form of movement speed, or movement. Teleporting gives you additional damage reduction too, so you want to be spamming that as much as you possibly can. Head towards this last objective here. I love the teleport pull-in animation from Raymond's, though. You just see groups of monsters just slowly move wherever you're going across the map. Let's go finish this up. I really love this build. I played a different variation of Ball Lightning last season. This one is really, really heavily based on cooldowns. The last one was basically just spam lightning ball or spam ball lightning chain, and it just, you had a couple different aspects. You weren't running ice blades, so So this is a very fun variation of the build. So for the last room, you always want to try and keep the elites grouped up so you know where things are going to explode. And as you kill things, you can kind of move back and forth between the groups. So that this way you don't run into something that is going to blow up like that fire explosion there. No matter which character I end up playing on, I always kind of run circles around the edges, because it always seems to be the safest pattern to go, so that all those after-death explosions doesn't kill you. Alright, well that's the run. We're going to look at the gear and kind of go over how this build is laid out. So we're going to start at the top with Unwavering, then Infinite, Raiment of the Infinite, Accelerating on the gloves. Bolt's Will we use here for the damage increase, then anytime we teleport or use Flame Shield, gives us mana back. So this is a really, really important part. Flicker Step, it's going to help reduce our ultimate cooldown. Shredding Blades, Gravitational, Recharging Loop, and Tall Rashas. Finally, Juggernauts. Put that on the amulet for the extra armor so that we are way overcapped, but that's the run. I will see you guys back in the training grounds. Alright, we are back in the training grounds. Let's dive into this build. We have a lot to cover today, so make sure you use the timestamps located in the description below. We're going to start with our skills. Let's take a look at the skill tree here. Starting at the top, we get our 2 points. That unlocks here. For the non-Uber unique build, we're going to put 1 point into Chain Lightning. We're going to put 1 point into Devastation just to unlock Elemental Dominance. Your core mastery skills deal 9% increased damage when cast above 50 mana. Moving down, Flame Shield. We're going to take Flame Shield all the way up through Mystical Flame Shield. You gain 25% mana cost reduction while Flame Shield is active. We're going to go full points into Teleport, and then we're going to get some additional damage reduction, quite a bit of additional damage reduction, from Shimmering Teleport. We're going to go 1 point into Elemental Attunement here. Ice Blades, all the way down through Summoned Ice Blades. 1 point into Aligned Elements, so that we can go full points into Mana Shield, and 3 points into Protection. We're going to take Lightning Spear all the way down through Invoked Lightning Spear. Conjuration Mastery. Inner Flame, 2 points into Devouring Blaze. We're going to max out Ball Lightning, and we're going to go all the way down through Wizard's Ball Lightning. We got Static Discharge, down to 2 points into Invigorating Conduit. We're going to take Unstable Currents for our ultimate, all the way down. 1 point into Coursing Currents, so that we unlock Electrocution. And then for our key passive, we're taking Isu's Ferocity. Jumping into the Paragon board. Starting with your starter board here, we're going to be running Tactician. You deal a 10% increased damage for 4 seconds after casting a defensive skill. Our defensive skills are going to be your Flame Shield and your Teleport. The next board that we go into is going to be Burning Instincts, and we're going to be running the Destruction Glyph here. Gives you a ton of critical strike damage, and critical strikes increase all damage enemies take from you by 2% for 10 seconds, up to 12%. So you're going to gain a bunch of extra damage here. Next, we go into Enchantment Master. Your enchantments are 20% stronger. Then we're going to go with Elementalist. Dealing fire, cold, or lightning damage to an enemy increases all damage you deal to them by 5% for 10 seconds, stacking once per element. Looking at how the enchantments are laid out, we're going to start with Chain Lightning Enchantment. This is the reason that we took that 1 point in our skill tree into Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning forms automatically after spending 83 mana. The reason that we're taking that is because we want to use the recharging aspect. Each time Chain Lightning bounces, gain 3 mana. This is going to be huge because it's a very, very big source of mana regen, and you will need it. Coming back over to our second enchantment, Teleport. Evade is replaced with a short-range teleport on a 22.3 second cooldown. This version of Teleport does not make you unstoppable. The reason that we take this is that every time that we teleport, we are going to activate our raiments. After teleporting, close enemies are pulled in and stunned for 2.3 seconds. We are also going to be using Flicker Step. So what happens here is that we have attacks reduce evades cooldown by 1.2 seconds. We attack very, very quickly with Chain Lightning and Ball Lightning, so your 22.3 second on evade is actually going to come up very, very quickly, and you really won't notice that time much at all. This build has a lot to it. Let's break the whole thing down so you really understand how it works and what you're going to need to do to play it. We're going to start with the Seneschal. We're only going to look at breaking support. There is a 100% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. The reason that vulnerable is so important is going to be Ice Blades. We went into our modifiers. Ice Blades cooldown is reduced by 0.5 seconds each time it hits a vulnerable enemy. 20% of enhanced Ice Blades cooldown reduction is applied to your other skills, which means every single time that Ice Blades hits a vulnerable enemy, cooldown reduction on Unstable Currents, Lightning Spear, Flame Shield, and Teleport are all reduced. That's a really, really, really important skill. Now looking at Lightning Spear critical strikes also apply vulnerable. So having this up as much as possible, and then having Ice Blades up as much as possible is super, super critical to this build working properly. Next, let's take a look at Unstable Currents. Lightning surges within you for 10 seconds. So this skill lasts for 10 seconds every time you use it. Whenever you cast a shock skill, if we take a look at Ball Lightning, at the very top there, right under ranks 5 out of 5, it says shock. So Ball Lightning is a shock skill, and we cast this all the time. Whenever you cast a shock skill, a random core, conjuration, or mastery skill is also cast. So we could be casting additional Ice Blades, additional Lightning Spears, and additional Ball Lightnings. Not only does it cast additional spells, Unstable Currents increases your attack speed by 25%. What attack speed does is it lets you cast spells, additional spells quickly, and it also allows you to switch between different skills. So if we're casting Lightning Ball and Teleport comes up and we want to use Teleport, it'll allow us to make that swap between the two much faster and then go right back to casting Ball Lightning. So having that additional 25% is definitely critical. Now, it has a very long cooldown, 46.62 seconds. That's why we use Flicker Step. Each enemy you evade through reduces your active ultimate cooldown by up to 4 seconds. So up to a total of 10 seconds. Now you remember, Ice Blades is going to be reducing Unstable Currents. Flicker Step can take 10 seconds off of that. And because we're going to be reducing our evade, which is a teleport, we're going to reduce our cooldown on Unstable Currents sometimes faster than that 10 seconds is up. So Unstable Currents should always be up 100% of the time when there's a lot of enemies around. We just mentioned evade turning into teleport and teleport itself. We use those in combination with raiments. After using teleport, close enemies are pulled to you and stunned for up to 3 seconds. Teleport's cooldown is increased by 20%, but really with the Ice Blades cooldown, that does not really make too much of a difference. But that is why we took full ranks into teleport, because every point that you gain in teleport decreases the cooldown. So that's why we maxed that out. Speaking of enchantments, we're going to look again. We're specifically looking at the 22.3 second cooldown and the 83 mana cost on your Chain Lightning enchantment. In the Paragon board, we took Enchantment Master. That 20% stronger, what that means is if we take it off and we go back to our enchantments, it is now on almost a 28 second cooldown and 100 mana. So that 20% stronger is really, really big. Part of the reason that legendary aspect is so strong is that 17 additional mana that we save also affects recharging. So we're going to spawn more Chain Lightnings and we're going to get back more mana faster because we took the legendary node Enchantment Master. When we covered the Paragon board, we also talked about Flame Shield and Teleport being our defensive skills. What both of these skills do is that they both grant Unstoppable. Where Unstoppable comes into play and why it's so important is because we're running Tibalt's Will. With this, not only does the Unstoppable give us an additional 40% damage, but it also grants us 50 primary resource, which is our mana. So every time that we teleport and every time we pop Flame Shield, we gain back valuable mana because we are spamming Ball Lightning, so we're spending mana like crazy. So we're going to need to make sure that those come off cooldown and that they're used on cooldown. At the same time that our Flame Shield and our Teleport is granting us additional mana and additional damage, it's also granting us another layer of protection. In our skill tree, we took the node Protection. Using cooldowns grants 30% of your maximum life. For me, that's 4,200 as a barrier for 3 seconds. So that means that any of their skills, except for Ball Lightning, will grant us that barrier. So we can use Ice Blades, Unstable Currents, Lightning Spear, Flame Shield, or Teleport. And it's going to give us a barrier. So when I pop Flame Shield, if you look at the health bar, it's going to light up blue. And on top of my 14,000 life, I'll have an additional 4,200. So that gets taken first before my life gets taken. So if I only use, and I only get hit for 3,000, and then I use another cooldown, like Ice Blades, it's going to replace all of the damage that has been taken off of that barrier. So as I'm spamming my cooldowns, I'm going to constantly have additional life being added to this. So to bring this build back around full circle, we started with Ice Blades. Ice Blade reduces the cooldown of everything. Using cooldowns keeps us alive. So as you can see, every single part of this build and every single skill that you use has a purpose, has a way to keep you alive and keep you running through all of the content that you want to clear. I'm going to show you what this looks like. I have some footage that we're going to play. I'm going to make the skill bar much bigger so that you can see it, and then we'll explain what we're doing as we're going through the build. Watch the cooldowns, check out the mana. This is what it looks like. When we start the room, we start with Ball Lightning, and then we start evading. Evade combined with Raiments pulls the monsters in. Then we're going to use Teleport also to continue to pull those monsters in. Right there, if you saw everything fly across the screen, that was the Teleport combined with the Evade. We are using cooldowns every single time they come up. Ice Blades is on cooldown immediately. The barrier around my health bar is always up because we spam cooldowns so quickly. So you want to make sure that as soon as you start to take a little damage, you pop your Flame Shield, and then you continue to use your cooldowns as you go. Let's take a look at the aspects that make this build run. Starting with the helmet, we're running Unwavering. So if you just watch that gameplay that we did, there's a section in it where I use Flame Shield, and Flame Shield immediately comes back up. Taking direct damage has up to a 6% chance to reset the cooldowns of your defensive skills. So that proc where Flame Shield went down and then immediately back up was Unwavering here. For the helmet, you definitely want to be running cooldown reduction. You need as much of it as you possibly can get in this build. For this, you don't really need the total armor stat, so if there is a stat on there that you wanted to put over that, that's definitely an option. We are well over armor cap. Next, we're running Raiment of the Infinite. We covered this a lot in detail. Then we're running Accelerating for some additional attack speed. On the gloves, we're looking for attack speed, critical strike chance, critical strike against injured, as well as your lucky hit chance. Tibalt's Will, Flicker Step. We're running Shredding Blades. This increases your Ice Blade's chance to apply vulnerable by 20%. And the vulnerable duration is increased by 4 seconds. Plus, you gain additional damage to vulnerable enemies. Gravitational. This makes all of the Ball Lightning spin around you, so without this aspect, there is no build. Like I said before, we want as much cooldown as possible, so we're running almost max cooldown reduction here too. Talrashas, recharging, and Juggernaut. So this amulet here I just have on just because I didn't have anything in my bags that would work for me, but the strength and the crowd control duration would ideally be replaced with movement speed and then additional cooldown reduction. Looking at your Seneschal, we're going to start with the Governing Stones. We are running Flash of Adrenaline for some extra damage. How Flash of Adrenaline is set up is duration support, increases the duration of the skill, this one here, by 4 seconds, which brings the duration up to 12 seconds. We're running Tactical Support, which decreases the cooldown of the supported skill, which is Flash of Adrenaline, by 40%. So it brings the cooldown down to 12 seconds. So this way, there is no time where this is not up. We're also running Genesis here. This increases the effectiveness of the supported skills. So that gives us our 48%, which once this is maxed out, will be 50. If you do not have Genesis, then you could run something like Safeguard support here for additional damage reduction, which you can never get enough of. On the other side, we're running Tempest. Tempest attacks enemies, and then there's a lightning that chains out from them, which helps us spread some of the debuffs that we need. We're running Burning support, and the reason we're running Burning support here is because we're running Talrash's Ring. For each type of elemental damage you deal, you gain up to 15% damage increase. So right now, we only have lightning, and we have ice from your ice blades. So if we're running Burning support on your Seneschal, then we're getting our third element. We talked about breaking support earlier, but this just applies vulnerable damage to everybody. And then you saw how quickly we burn through our mana, so resource support helps tremendously here. As promised in the beginning of the video, let's cover your Uber Uniques, starting with your Harlequin's Crest. +4 ranks to all skills. Our teleport now has a 6.25 second cooldown. Without that on, it goes up to 7.21. So even just that alone is huge. But then it makes the cooldown of everything else lowered. Ring of Starless Sky. So after spending primary resources, it reduces the cost of your skills and increases the damage done by up to 40%. So that reduced cost of mana will affect your ball lightning and allow you to cast more. If we attack a little bit here, we build up that stacks now, your ball lightning goes down to 27 from 45. That is a huge jump. So having the Ring of Starless Sky will allow us to take this Chain Lightning enchantment off, and we're actually going to replace it with Ice Blades. What's cool about the Ice Blades enchantment, for every 33 seconds in cooldowns you spend, you spawn an Ice Blades on a random enemy. 33 seconds of cooldowns we can hit real quick. Even just popping Unstable Currents, that gives us 46 seconds of cooldowns. We've already spawned an additional Ice Blade, which Ice Blade helps us cool down all of our other skills. Now we spend 1, 2, 3, and we've already hit our 33 seconds again. So we've spawned additional Ice Blades. By the time that's done, Ice Blades should be cooled down. We can keep on using more and more Ice Blades. If you can see where this is going, having this modifier makes our cooldowns fly down. Because we're no longer using the Chain Lightning enchantment here, we can go into our skill tree, and we can remove that point. And then you really have free reign of where you wanted to put it, but you could do something like Devouring Blaze. So because we're running Burning support, we're going to get an additional 21% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. And if they're immobilized, which they are constantly with teleport, that bonus is going to be increased to 30%. Alright, we'll go hit some training dummies, show you how the build works. Things to watch for. Watch the cooldown on Evade, watch the cooldown on Ice Blades, and then just pay attention to how fast everything cools down and then where your mana sits at. It stays almost full the whole time, and all of the cooldowns, sometimes my fingers can't even move fast enough to keep up with how quickly the cooldowns come up. So we'll start with Teleport, We'll start all of our cooldowns here. We'll start evading. If you see how fast evade comes up, it's pretty crazy. Like, there's almost no downtime on it. And that was with the increase to teleport. So that's what it looks like. You have full mana, you have full cooldowns all the time, you have a shield constantly. It is a fun, dynamic, fast build. Your fingers are going to hurt by the end of it. Well, that's the build. Get out there, try it. I hope you like it as much as I do. Let me know in the comments what you think of the build. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help.